Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Spiral Offcast. My name is Danny.
This is Eric.
Zippity dude out. My name is Chris.
Hey, welcome back, Eric. Welcome back. This is your second time on the
Yes,
podcast.
yes. Last time was the infamous Goblin Slayer.
Yes. Now we're back. What is this? Is this 9? Is this 9? This is 9.
This is 9.
Podcast number 9. Woo! We're here. Happy Halloween. Happy autumn.
Happy fall.
Happy fall. The leaves are falling. The winds are picking up.
The fires are raging.
Fires going again in California.
Falling apart around us.
Luckily, far away from us.
Oh,
But
yeah, far away.
Hopefully, everybody else is safe.
Yes.
That are nearby.
Shout out to Orange County, California. Hope y'all are doing all right.
Yeah. And with that, a little bit of escapism with today's episode.
Yes. Welcome on in. Grab a seat. We have a fun time ahead of us. So, with the Halloween season comes all the good old scary movies everyone comes and goes and watches. One of them...
Well, for you normies, sure.
Yeah.
For the rest of us, this is year-round.
Yes.
For you normies.
All you normal folk. No, what is it from Dark Knight Rises? You immediately... What was it?
You merely discovered the scary movie.
I was born in the scary movies. Molded by them.
That's actually true in my case.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's Eric's life story.
Yeah.
No, so one scary movie that has been a quote-unquote hot topic here in the core 4 realm has been It Chapter 2. The movie came out in 2019, I think it was.
Yeah, it was August 2019.
August 20...
I only just saw it the first time, like, I want to say 2 or 3 months ago. And I was really looking forward to it a lot, but just a lot of, like, personal life shit got in the way and just held me up. Yeah. I mean, well, 2020, yeah, but also the tail end of 2019 is just it was a little rough for me. So yeah, I just finally got to it, and I have my opinions about it. Danny has his own opinions about it, and we're going to discuss them as civilized as can be hoped for.
Because this video, it's actually quite funny. This video was a challenge made by Eric over here.
It was.
Because I saw this movie back when it originally came out. I didn't quite like it. I had voiced my opinions back when it originally came out, and then I kind of left it, never thought of it again. So then when Eric watched it, he immediately was like, I challenge you to a debate on the podcast because you're wrong and we need to talk about it. And I was like, sure, why not?
So we've literally not voiced our opinions about this movie to each other until this moment. So
Yes.
you guys are getting an exclusive.
The exclusive debate. Debate.
Exclusive on Core 14.
Yes.
You won't hear about it anywhere else.
Just for clarification, I have rewatched the movie now. As we were getting close to this, I went ahead, rewatched it, just took notes and whatnot, tried to refresh everything, because I literally hadn't watched it since it had come out, so it had been well over a year.
Yeah.
So now I'm on board. Eric has also rewatched it, so it's fresh in our memories.
Yep. Yeah.
Rest in our memories, never forget.
I've only got a couple notes, nothing lengthy, but I rewatched it again this morning just to kind of keep it crisp in my mind.
Yes. And then Chris is here.
I am here. I am neutral. I am more here to keep the fire from starting.
But
and I will run away if it all goes to...
No, you're the moderator. You gotta, like... It's like when, like, two chihuahuas start fighting. You gotta, like, yank them by the collar.
It's more like you gotta hose them down.
Yeah.
It's like being the moderator between two gangs. It's like, do you... like, behind...
It's like...
No, it's not that bad, but I'm more just like... This is about you two and your opinions.
Yes.
And your discussion, your debate.
Yes.
My opinion has no place here. And therefore, I want to keep this authentic and quality.
I would like to say, I'm going to establish 2 ground rules.
Okay.
The first one is
No nudity.
Damn it. Yeah, nudity in the no visual podcast.
Don't look.
especially for Chris. No nudity coming from Chris.
Oh,
I don't want to turn around and see you naked.
wait a minute.
That's his way to break up the fight. He has to establish dominance here.
What the fuck is this?
Okay, the first rule
Yes.
is I am not and will not accept any reference to the book. I am judging this movie exclusively on the merit of the film itself and not how it compares to the book. Part of that is I have not read the book entirely through, so I am not familiar with the book. So I am literally gauging this strictly by the merits of the film itself and how it stacks up to the miniseries of the early 90s, which I have seen. The second one is I'm not going to honor any argument about runtime, okay? Because for me, runtime is entirely personal preference. It is not an objective critique of a film. I have seen many movies that are extremely long and they go by in a blink for me, and I've seen movies that I absolutely hated that were only 90 minutes and they felt twice as long as they actually were. So to me, that's not an argument.
Okay. Well, okay. So I can accept the first rule because I have also not read the book.
Here we go.
No.
First contention. Here we go.
No. I was gonna say this is that I've also not read the book. So I agree with you that it's very like, how can we really compare it to whatever the book was if we haven't read the book? So I can agree with that. And yeah, the 19 was it 1989 or 1990? 1990.
It was 1990 or 91.
I think it was 90 because I remember when the 2017 when it came out, the whole thing was, oh, it's 27 years and
yeah,
that whole thing. I've seen that. I've seen most of that as well. So I totally get that. I mean, as far as any comparisons, it's more just between the two It movies, just because one's a sequel to the other. That's right. So I have no issue with that.
See, I don't even agree with that because it's like the Lord of the Rings. It's all one book. It's just broken up into two separate films.
Right. No, and I understand, and it's not like my. See, I didn't want to start it yet. I wanted to I wanted to okay, let's be nice and friendly and then get into it.
Oh no.
Oh my god.
We're being friendly.
We are being friendly. All I was gonna say is that as far as the runtime, any issue I have with it's not necessarily the runtime. It's more what the movie does in that runtime. So
okay,
I guess
pacing is different. I don't. If you want to talk about pacing, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm talking about actual runtime, the actual length of the film. That I will not acknowledge.
Okay, then that's...
I heard way too many people bitch and moan about Lord of the Rings coming out of the theaters. I'm like, bitch, how did you not know this was going to be an epic?
Well, no, and that's my thing is that in my notes, my critiques, anything regarding runtime isn't actually the runtime. It's just what the movie does
pacing.
in that runtime. So
the
okay,
pacing.
then
Yeah,
that's
fine. That's fine. Yeah,
okay,
we can talk about.
We can talk about that. Okay, cool.
Oh, see, look at that. We brought it back.
Yeah, look at that. It's great.
Chris, you can go now.
Everything's fine.
Danny and I can work this out.
Halfway through, it's just like everything's fucking broken.
Blood seeping out from underneath the door.
Okay, so then yes, I accept your two rules here.
Okay.
I can't think of anything off of the top of my head. So
Do you have any stipulations?
no, that's what I'm saying is I can't think of anything. I agree to the two. Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay.
So
I think we're good.
Chris is the moderator. Do you have anything to say before we begin?
My fellow Americans.
Oh, God. Now's not the time. Now's not the time.
I, just like many, are probably looking forward to how this is going to go. Looking forward to hearing a lot of different opinions, a lot of different takes and views, and we're going to see how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
So, who would like to bring us in to the fold?
You can go ahead first, Eric. Honestly,
Okay.
Yeah.
I would.
It's begun. The debate has begun.
I would say that My number one thing that I really love about this movie is the character development. I feel like in a lot of modern Hollywood films, character development is usually shoved to the sidelines and generally ignored. And this film, and this, I would say, even as a horror fan, I would say that's doubly true of horror films, modern horror films. This movie takes the time to really flesh out each one of the members of the Losers Club. And I really, really like that a lot because you could say that, well, why do we need to do that when we've already been introduced to these characters in the first film? And I would say, well, because they're adults now. And, breaking the fourth wall, they're also new actors. So we, in a way, need to be reintroduced to them. And I think what's great is how they not only just reintroduce the characters, but how they've changed since we last saw them, and how some of them haven't changed actually since the last time we saw them. And it uses that as the foundation for everything else that comes afterwards. And I really love that about the film. I would say it also maintains the tone from the first movie very well. It is a nice balancing act between grimdark and humor. And that to me, that juxtaposition for me is really, really important, especially with horror films or even with war movies. You do need to bring levity to those really intense situations. Otherwise, it's just suffocating after a while. But those are the two things that really stand out to me about the film. Mm-hmm. What about you?
Okay, so I want to go. My opening statement here. I want to go ahead and clarify this. Going into this, just for clarity's sake, I did watch the 2017 one. Love it. It's a great movie. If you haven't seen that one, going into this one, I knew it was going to be different, just because like what I had seen of the 1990 miniseries, what I had known of it as a story. I knew that there's the kids, there's the adults, there's that sort of like the growth from there, and that's fine. I get that, and that's perfectly fine. I have no issue with that. I upon rewatching it, it was definitely when I was going into the rewatching of it, it was definitely one of those things where it's like, okay, surely, because I didn't care for this movie really, but I had also kind of put it to the side. I was like, okay, whatever. I was going into rewatching, I was like, okay, what are some things that I do like and whatnot? Like, there's got to be something here. I do agree with you that the development with the Losers Club as adults, seeing them all, as adults here, I think it's it's great. That's actually one of the things that I loved about the first movie was it's the characters, the kids. Like, I thought that it actually handled them especially well, especially with where horror movies have been lately, especially like like Blumhouse ones. Character development isn't necessarily a priority, at least most of the time.
Yeah.
So I really like that about the first It movie. The second one, I think, does a fine job with it as well. Having them as adults, kind of seeing where they've come, and then kind of watching them like break it down, like kind of going like not regressing, but like you see like in the beginning where you see where they're all at, and then them kind of coming back together. You're kind of starting to see more and more of like the kids side. That was cool. My issues with this movie, like I have a few different issues. The first one, I will go ahead and say I do disagree with you as far as the tone. I believe that I agree with you that there should absolutely be a balance with dark, scary kind of movies, and then have a little bit of humor. I absolutely believe that, and I agree with there. I don't think this movie does a good job with it. I think that the movie has a hard time. And I remember this the first time I watched it. I like. There are moments where I feel like it's like, okay, this is meant to be humorous, like this is intentionally, but then there are other times where it's trying to be serious or it's trying to be scary, and it's goofy and funny, and it's not scary. And I was really having an issue with that because it's like, I don't, and obviously, again, this is from what I remember. I don't remember the first movie having that issue where it was, trying to find this balancing act. I remember there being more humorous parts, obviously, and that I thought it did fine. But with this movie, I thought that the scale was really off, and I felt like it was unintentionally funny at a lot of points where it was meant to be serious, and that really was taking me out of it. Um, Obviously, I like we were talking about with the rule thing. I obviously have an issue with the pacing of the movie, just the way it goes about, the certain plot line with everyone trying to remember, stuff from the past and whatnot. I think there's a serious pacing issue, that just really pads out the movie, like making it way longer than it needs to be. Not runtime wise, I just mean like the way that the story
The way
is.
it feels. Yeah.
Exactly. I have a real issue with that. And so I will say this. Having rewatched it, I was able to see things that I had forgotten about upon first watching, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. These are kind of neat. But I will say my general opinion is still I don't hate the movie. I just do not care for it, and I really am like, it's whatever. I don't like it, but I'm not willing to be like, oh, this is a fucking stupid movie, whatever. Like, no, I don't care about it. I don't like it enough. I don't like it, and then I also am just like, it's not like a hatred for it. It's just like, I just don't
Kind
think
of
it's
indifferent.
Exactly. I just don't think it's a good movie. But that's my opening statement.
Well, I would have to disagree with you as far as pacing. To me, it's paced very well. In fact, I was saying to Chris that Chapter 2 does flashbacks the way flashbacks should be done. They're very seamless. They're both seamless in the way that they are presented and in a visual aspect. For example, when they find their little underground bunker, right?
Yeah.
They go down, they're in it, and Ben kind of just looks off into the room, and the camera pans over, and we are already back in the past and looking at them as kids, first establishing the place.
Yeah.
And to me, that is a beautiful transition. It's very smooth. We, of course, get the classic Losers Club from the first film that we have all come to love. And it's an excuse to see them again. I really like it. And it's a lot better than most movies do, where they just do a hard cut to a flashback. And then we're stuck in this flashback for like 15 minutes. And you're just waiting for the movie to get back on track.
Right.
I will use an example of this, and a lot of people will probably get angry at me for it, but I don't care. Deadpool.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest problem I have with the first Deadpool movie is the vast majority of it is a flashback movie.
I actually do agree with you with Deadpool.
I hate that. I really do. It's just like, why don't you just start at this point and then move forward? To me, it's just like, it's such a bad narrative choice to open up with this action sequence of revenge and then be like, so you're probably wondering how I got to this point. It's just like people make a joke about that because it's become such a ridiculous cliche at this point. And I mean, if it wasn't for Ryan Reynolds' performance and just the overall likability of Deadpool as a character, that movie would have flopped because of that. I'm convinced. Mm-hmm. That is not how you do flashback. That is not how you set up the past. Mm-hmm. Chapter 2 does this in such a way where it goes for the pertinent scene that the flashback is supposed to kind of help flesh out, and then once it fleshes it out, it dismisses itself, and we continue on with the main present timeline. Mm-hmm. And that's how it should be, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. As far as like being unintentionally comedic, I would love to hear examples from you, because to me, The only jarring moment was when Eddie got thrown up on by the leper and it started playing that song for like
Yes.
20 seconds and then stopped. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, I get what they were going for, but they cut it so short that it's just like, why is it there?
Yeah.
Either draw it out where it feels more natural and more obvious what you're doing, or leave it out altogether.
Mm-hmm.
I'll agree with you on that, but that's the only situation I can think of.
Mm-hmm.
In all honesty, I mean, personally, I thought it all fit.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I am actually glad that you brought up that lever because okay, I'm not gonna dive into it because I'll bring it up again. But I was curious how you thought of that scene, just because I was like, this is one of those moments where it's like, okay, it like wants to be comedic, and I completely agree with you. It's funny because that, going back to Deadpool, that song was from the beginning of Deadpool,
yeah.
and that's where I was like, why are they using the Deadpool song? But yeah, only like the first like 5 seconds of it,
Yeah,
not even
yeah.
like it was just like the first little bit of the chorus part. So no, I agree with that part. And then lastly, before I leave, I do just want to say I completely agree with you with Deadpool. As much as I love that movie, it spends way too much with
Yeah.
the flashbacks, and that yeah, no, it's absolutely. I just want to say, because I was like, you know what? Yes, I do agree with you there. As far as the flashbacks go, I here's the thing. I agree with you that the transitions are great. I absolutely, the transitions are seamless.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I will say. I'm gonna get into why I hate these flashback things, but I will say that the transitions to them should be implemented more in other movies. They should be. It should be this like seamless thing. It's pleasing. It was visually pleasing to watch. Yeah, like they go into like the little like clubhouse, and then all of a sudden you see the kids start moving. It's like, oh, this is a flashback. It's not just like a hard cut. I agree with you there. My issue with the flashbacks is that I think that this whole plot line with them, it's like, oh, you need to remember, you don't remember, you need to remember. I feel like it all of a sudden becomes this very like just like padded out Easter egg hunt. And honestly it feels like these things that they are trying to like find and whatnot. I wish they, and here's the thing. I'm sorry. I'm trying to like I'm trying to gather my thoughts. I know what I want to say. I'm just trying to like gather my thoughts. Um these things and whatnot, I feel like it's like, if they were this important, then why weren't they in the first movie? Like, what is it? The whole thing with Richie when he goes to like the arcade and whatnot. He's like, oh, he has to find this coin. The whole scene with him as like a kid being like the arcade and whatnot. Like, I wish. The way I see it is that if they had done this with the first movie and had this have been like a callback, I think either if you had even have a flashback with it, I feel like this could have been more justifiable. But the issue is that I feel like when we do these flashbacks and whatnot, it basically stops the main plot just so we can go on this little side adventure. Or the whole thing with Eddie, it's Eddie, right? That's
The hypochondriac.
yeah.
Yeah, that's Eddie.
Okay. I think that whole like it's these examples where it's like the flashback just it stops the main plot right now, and it's like we're trying to see, like, you know, all the adults, you know, we're seeing them, you know, grow up and like seeing each other and everything, and then everything has to stop because we have to go into this little side adventure that it's like, why, like, why wasn't this just in the first movie then? I understand that it's a flashback or not, but these flashbacks take so long only to talk about this one little item and its like importance, you know. And then we get to it as adults, like, oh, I found the thing, and then it does this for each person, and it's like, okay, if you wanted to have this little you know, Easter egg scavenger hunt thing, that's fine. But these items, it's like the way I would have done it, like, have this stuff in the first movie, and then each of these things could have been like a callback, just to connect the two, just for like clarity's sake, instead of being like, oh, you remember this thing? It's like, no, I don't remember. Here's the whole like 20-minute flashback of whatever happened that, again, could have been in the first movie, but no, we have to put it here. And again, this is just like I feel like it just pads it out, and it makes the movie go by just so slowly. And it really is. It's just during this part, and that was the weird part, was when I was watching it, everything felt fine at first, like with the adults when they're all introduced and whatnot. It's when they're put on this scavenger hunt, this goes on for like another like hour or so of just each of them doing this thing, doing this thing, doing this thing. And I feel like it's like if you had just repaste it or cut it out or like, reworked it or whatnot, I think it would have felt a lot smoother. And that's the thing, is just like I feel like it goes at a snail's pace, but then when it's done, I don't think it has that issue. I think, and I don't, again, not to bring up the book or anything, I just like, but I don't know how they did in that, if that's exactly what it was or anything, but
May I offer like an explanation, possibly?
no, of
As
course.
far as Richie's homosexual encounter.
Yeah.
I think as far as why that wasn't hinted at in the first film was that it might have run the risk of sexualizing the children. And I think part of what the first film was trying to capture was how these kids are very pure in a very impure town with impure parents. And I feel like if they had put that in the first movie, it would have detracted from that concept. I do know that Richie in the books was a closet homosexual. At least that's how I think it was presented. In the original miniseries from the 90s, they literally just ham-fisted it in, being like, "Oh yeah, I've always been gay," and they literally just hug it out and then just go on. I'm like, wait a minute, no, you can't just drop that and then just carry on.
Yeah, and here's the thing: is like especially that scene. I don't have an issue with the scene. What I have an issue with is that it feels like
it had no continuity.
Exactly, and I feel
I get it.
And it's like continuity with that, and then it being forced into this. I feel like it's just like, again, I feel like it just detracts from the main line. It's like everything stops so we can have this little bit, and that Richie scene in particular, I actually liked that scene, like up until when I say the scene, I mean like the part where it's like the whole like the arcade part and he runs out. That whole part I had no issue with. I have an issue with where it's placed with this movie, and just like, again, it feels like everything stops. That's my issue with that, and that's my issue with a lot of these flashbacks, is that it just, everything feels like it stops for this little I'm forgetting the word, but I'm just gonna keep saying Easter egg or little scavenger hunt.
See, here's the thing. I don't see it as inconsistent, because if you watch the first film again, they never even really say what Richie's scared about. He's like, fucking clowns, man, and that's it. Like, it's never really explored. And I felt like this was the time for them to be like, no, this is what he's been hiding. And the reason why they all have that like hour-long segment of them each individually having these moments is to flesh out much more their fears. And Richie's was obviously that he was gay, and he was scared of people knowing it. And I felt like, if anything, we were finally getting the answer to what Richie was scared of in the first movie that we never got an answer to. He himself, the character himself, brushed it off in the first movie. He's like, fucking clowns. And then that was it. It was like, it was never really explored. And I don't know how you would do that with a kid without it being somewhat exploitative. And I get what you're saying. It feels like it's shoehorned in, but to me, it's a happy compromise of finally giving an answer to what Richie is afraid of, and not putting a child in a
situation,
an adult situation.
And here's the thing, and I get that, And okay, I guess compared to the others, maybe Richie's is the better one, just because, like you said, it does answer a question or a possibility that was raised in the first one. I personally don't remember right off the top of my head, but again, I didn't watch the first It. I rewatched the second one.
Yeah.
The first one wasn't. I didn't. It's actually funny because I was watching. I told you I was watching Alien this morning. They had just added the first It, and I'm like, oh, now they added. I could have watched it, but sure, why not?
Yeah.
So I can't recall it, but I'll take your word for it, and I think that and I get it. That makes sense. Out of the other ones though, I don't feel like they're as important. You get like Beverly's, which her whole flashback is just the thing with like the dad, who we already knew was an asshole, already had a creep thing, so we just get more of that. What's his Ben? I was trying to remember his name, Ben, the chubbier kid.
Yeah.
His whole thing was just the stuff with Beverly, which again we already knew. Did we need a whole flashback for it? And then it's just that's what I mean. It's just like it just feels like it's stuff that either could have been included in the first one, or it's subject did we really even need, for the sake of padding it out. Maybe Richie's is like the exception here, where it's like, okay, there is some importance to that, to the character and everything, and I get that. But some of these other ones, it just feels like it's padded out, and it's for the sake of it never feels like it's for the purpose of bettering the characters. It feels like it's for the sake of, oh, we didn't show this before, we gotta show it here. And it just it sucks, because it's like I do like seeing like the adults and seeing them take on everything. So when everything stops just to show this little side quest adventure with one of the kids repeat 6 different times, it's like, this is annoying.
I get where you're coming from, and I guess you could make the argument that it is a little redundant with some of the characters.
Yeah.
I think, well, you've pointed out some of the problems you have, and I'm going to point out a couple of the ones I have, because I don't think this is a flawless movie. I felt the whole opening sequence at the fair was completely pointless.
Oh, I wanted to actually ask both of you what you thought of that.
Yeah, really. The moderator was going to bring this up.
No, that opening sequence...
Yeah, that is definitely padding, without a doubt. I don't see the point of it. It's the only purpose it serves is to announce that Pennywise has come back. Mm-hmm. They could have done that in 2 minutes, and it would have worked just as well. We don't need to see a gay couple get beaten up to know that the people of Derry still suck. Mm-hmm. It's really pointless, in my opinion. They could have easily been leaving the fair, maybe one of them trips and they falls down into the river, and Pennywise scoops him up and kills him, and boom, there you go. To stretch it out the way they did when this was like 5 or 10 minutes long, I think. To me, it was pointless. Mm-hmm. It served no purpose. I do like that it establishes the little girl who gets killed later on and have that continuity. I thought that was nice, and I still say they could have done that in a much shorter time.
Right.
I just, it was dumb. Mm-hmm. It was dumb. The other and more bigger one that I've yet to hear anybody talk about when criticizing this film, and to me, it's a huge plot hole. Their loss of memory. It's never really explained, other than the further they go away from Derry, the more they forget. And I'm like, okay, but how the fuck is Bill gonna forget that his baby brother died? Like, what? That seems like a trauma that sticks with you for the rest of your life. Like, I don't buy that. Yeah. And they never go into it. They just say, oh, the further you leave, the further away from Derry you are, the more you forget. And that just like, okay, I can accept that, but elaborate, please. That to me is like the single biggest plot hole of the whole movie.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it presents this hook to the way this whole thing works, and then they never follow through with it at any point. And it seems like it's a pretty pivotal plot point. And I think, honestly, it would probably go a long ways to kind of rationalize the flashbacks and the individual character development that we are reintroduced to.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they could have done some really creative stuff there.
Yeah.
The fact that they don't is just bizarre
They
to
just
me.
are like, oh, no, they forgot. No, okay.
I want to let
Yes.
you respond to it.
Yes.
But then there is a follow-up to this that I actually want to ask both of you in reference to what Eric said.
Okay.
But I want you to...
Okay. Let me... Okay, yeah. I'll respond to both, and then, yeah, we'll loop it back. That I think it's really funny that you brought that up, because yes, I had an issue with that as well, because it's just bizarre, because it's like there was no like anything within the first movie, and then this opens up and it's like, you guys have forgotten everything, now you gotta go figure it out. But I agree with you, stuff like him losing his little brother, it's like, how would you forget it? These kids live there, so it's like everything's just a cloud, like...
Yeah, and I want to clarify for anybody who's listening. I know the movie never says that he forgot about his little brother dying, but it's kind of indirectly implied by the fact that they do say that they have forgotten it.
Yeah,
Or they've forgotten details of their childhood.
And not to mention, his whole thing is with the little brother, so it's like,
Yeah.
Are you implying that? And then like Beverly and her dad, like, are you telling me she forgot everything that happened with her asshole dad?
Well, okay, I would say no, because what's really interesting about two of the characters, Beverly being one of them,
Yeah.
is how they basically just repeat the life that they had. Beverly ends up hooking up with a guy who's just
that
as abusive as her
horrible guy.
father.
Yeah, absolutely.
Eddie, he ends up marrying a woman who's exactly like his mom.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's really creepy, it's unnerving, and to me it's perfect.
Yeah.
Like that's what you want with those characters.
Right.
It's real. That's
I
real
feel-
life.
No, I feel that. No, I agree with you that it's like it's just like, oh no, you forgot. It's like they don't explain it or anything. Just like it's like, oh no, you've just forgotten. I agree with you there. And then before we come back to it, I did want to say about the first scene. It's funny. So I agree with you that the first scene, it's bizarre because the first scene, in my opinion, it's like, it's one of the only scenes, to me at least, that felt like very like intense, like for a horror movie. Just the whole situation, like, because it doesn't hold back or anything, and
Yeah.
it's the one scene that made me genuinely uncomfortable.
Oh yeah.
But I do agree with you that it's like the only point it serves is to announce that Pennywise is back. It's like you could have done that in a far shorter way. One thing that I was thinking is like if you just had like newspaper clippings or whatnot of like, oh, like this couple got beat up or something like this, and then somehow looping it back to Pennywise. It's like you have this very like intense thing, but for it to not have any real weight, it feels like it ends up just being there for the sake of shock value.
It's gratuitous.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not because of the violence or that it's violence against homosexuals, but that it's there to be there.
Exactly.
And it's to me, like, okay, you want a strong opener. I get that. I think
let's open it with a hate crime. This'll pull them in.
Let's open it up with that. It's, to me, I think it would have been far more interesting to leave it ambiguous.
Yeah.
Like maybe something happens and maybe you see just the beaver hat that guy had and just floating down the river, and you just hear a blood-curdling scream and you don't know what happened. And then later on when you see what's his name, Mike?
Yeah.
The one that brings them all back together.
I think it was Mike. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it cuts later on, and he's standing at the river, and you see the blood markings on the pillar. I think you could have done that. It would have reduced the cut time. It wouldn't have been so gratuitous, and the point would have been conveyed.
Yeah. No, I feel that honestly. I just, yeah. I just wanted to say that I agree with both of those. So, Chris, moderator man, come back. You're like barely here in this podcast.
Well, yeah, it was the whole thing. It was your guys. It was about you guys.
Yes.
I'm just kind of here.
All right, so
I'm enjoying the
what is
ride.
the point that you wanted to bring up?
I wanted to bring up because you had brought up how they had lost all their memories and there was no real explanation for it. What did you think about the scene where he did go back to his street where his brother died? Do you know what scene I'm talking about?
Yes,
With
yes,
him
where
as
he
an
just
adult.
rebought the bike.
Yeah, and
Yes.
then he sees the sewer drain.
Yes.
And that whole thing,
Where he starts talking to the sewer drain and whatnot.
yeah.
Okay.
And then sort of remembers his brother,
Yeah.
and then gets really aggressive, and then like tries to climb down there, and because he's actually hearing his brother's voice.
Yeah.
And he thinks he's down there,
Mm-hmm.
but he doesn't remember. He knows that's his brother's voice, and he knows that he's gone, but he hears it, and he thinks he's actually down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Why I think they kind of imply that he had forgotten about his brother, and why I think that's so weird and jarring.
Exactly.
Like I don't have a problem with the flashback itself. It's the implications of it that I have a problem with, and the fact that they never explain it. Like,
Well, because, yeah, and I mean, like, my thing is, like, well, like, now when you think about it, it's like, oh, if he had forgotten it, I guess it would make sense why you'd go to it. Because the whole thing is, I'm watching, and it's like, this, like, grown-ass man really thinks his little brother that he knows died years ago, he's actually in there.
Yeah.
I was thinking, like, this is goofy. Like, he knows his little brother's dead.
Yeah,
but then
that's
it's
what I
like,
mean.
but it's like, if he's, like, actually doesn't remember, then it's like, then how? Like, you don't explain how he doesn't remember his little brother getting killed.
yeah,
That's
and-
why it's weird, because it's more. I'm not saying my opinion. I'm bringing up the scene itself, being that they established that he does remember his brother, because he recognizes the voice perfectly fine. He
Yeah.
recognizes the situation, and the drain, and all this, but he doesn't recognize immediately that his brother is actually dead, but he remembers some of it.
And then, of course, if he does remember, then why the fuck is he, like, yelling into a sewer drain trying to reach her when he knows he's
it's
dead?
kind of like when I rediscovered Jim Cotta.
Oh, just, and it's just like, that's a movie.
Yeah, we'll have a podcast all about Jim Cotta if you don't know
Sure.
about that movie.
Does anybody? Fucking. So he goes there and he's genuinely reaching down there because he thinks his little brother is in there.
Yeah.
And it's the whole movie up to this point is essentially messing with his head and his perception. But do you believe it was off because it wouldn't make sense for him as the character to believe that scene and be like genuinely fall for that little manipulation?
No, the problem is that it isn't explained. Like, it's not like, even Richie says, he's like, until 2 hours ago I had forgotten I had even grown up here. I'm like, wait, what? Like, what? No, you
Exactly.
can't do that. You can't just have a line like that just
And not
tossed out
explain
there
it.
and then not explore that.
Well-
Like, I'm not saying that they can't do it and that they shouldn't do it. I'm saying
If they
you,
do it,
you can't.
explain.
Yeah, you can't mention it and then not follow through with it.
Yeah.
That to me is the biggest failing of this movie.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, when I watched it, I took it as that he remembered everything with his little brother, and then he's just a dumbass for thinking his little brother's in the drain. And I'm like, that's stupid. But then it's like, oh, so if he had forgotten everything, then it's like, okay, then the movie's stupid for not explaining why they don't remember anything.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, the magic of the clown or whatever. It's like they don't explain it, and I agree. And so then that one scene, I feel like it's like, no matter which way you go with it, it's like I don't know. It's just I don't think it works either way. It's like if he remembers, then he's stupid. But if he does remember, then it's like, why the fuck does he not remember? And the movie doesn't tell us why they don't remember.
I would love to see like a director's cut, not necessarily that makes it longer of a film, but like re-edits some of this stuff, or
Yeah,
maybe
or maybe-
adds as scenes that were maybe cut
Right.
that did go some way to explain some of this. Because to me, that's if people have a problem with the pacing, I honestly feel like that plot point might go a long way to help establish the flashbacks and in the individual character explorations.
Yeah,
better.
I mean, maybe. I mean, at least at that point, if there was some sort of thing for it, at least it would help justify it.
Yeah, in which case these flashbacks and these individual character moments aren't meant to inform us per se, but to inform the characters, because
Right.
I think that is what they're going for, but they don't establish this loss of memory more to explain the flashbacks and the kind of rediscoveries that they have about themselves.
Right.
That's I think that's the key point. And I think when people complain about this movie, they're only complaining about half of the problem. And it's not even the real problem actually. It's something the part they're forgetting is the blank spot.
Yeah.
You know, it's like half of a picture. You know, they're complaining about the picture itself, but they're not acknowledging the part of the picture that isn't there.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that I think would go a long way of improving the pacing of the movie, improving the overall narrative of the characters.
Right.
I'm curious though, what if you had any other scenes that you thought were meant to be scary but weren't? Like,
Yeah.
give me another example.
No, I have plenty of examples. Let me just go through.
No, he has plenty.
I know. I don't mean it like that. I am just like, yeah, no, let me go through.
Danny has like half a textbook worth of notes.
Legit. Well, because that's the thing. Anytime we do these podcasts, it's like I want to take as many notes as possible. Yeah.
Danny rewrote the book.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Essentially, right? Oh, the fucking old lady scene with fucking Beverly. That fucking whole thing, like, as soon as she starts, like Beverly's, like, looking at stuff and remembering, and then you just see the fucking, like, old lady dancing fucking naked in the background. Like, that shit's fucking goofy. That's not
Okay,
scary.
I think that's you, because yes, no, I'm gonna go there, because Pennywise is a goofy character. He is weird. To me, that isn't silly. To me, it's kind of like an uncanny valley thing. It's like that's a grandma who's doing shit that a grandma shouldn't do.
Yeah.
It's bizarre, like I'm trying to think of an example. Jeez, I'm drawing a blank. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I was drawing a blank earlier. That's fine.
To me, it's like it's kind of like the painting from the first movie in Stanley's,
like the way it like
father's
moves
office.
and whatnot.
Yeah, it's supposed to be kind of just like jarring and awkward and.
I get that. Like, if she was doing shit like the Grudge or some shit like that, sure. But she's
That's
not.
another good example. You don't think so?
No,
I
she's
do.
just dancing around naked. Like,
Okay, she wasn't
She's doing like a
dancing.
weird scooter
No,
thing across
she was
the
not.
hallway.
No, she was not. It was her limbs just going as she moved across. It was
think,
a total Grudge thing. I'm glad. I was trying to think of that. The Grudge.
Here's the thing. Like, if they, I don't know if it would have been like an editing thing or something. If they showed it more like that, then that's fine. But the way it was shown, it didn't look like that. It just looked like she's like busting a move in the background, like fucking throwing shit. And then she's doing.
I think that's just all in your head, dude.
Dude, I'm telling you right now. And it was funny because every time every time the trailer came out, the trailers all had this part. Anytime we like went to the movies and that trailer came out, people were fucking laughing at that shit because she's just fucking like moving around. I thought it was just so like, I didn't think it was scary. I just thought it was goofy, and then she comes out as this big like fucking like bad CGI like big-eyed thing.
I don't actually think that was CGI. I think parts of her body were CGI, but I think there's this actor. He plays the leper. He's super tall and super skinny. He was also the crooked man in Conjuring 2. Because everybody also criticized Conjuring 2 with Crooked Man. And they're like, it's such a horrible CGI character. And it's like, actually, that's not CGI. That's an actor in costume. And they rewound the footage to have that jerky motion, and I think that was him again.
Maybe. I mean, and if that's wrong,
I'm sure the saggy boobs and the tongue were CGI.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like, if I'm wrong on if it being CGI, then I'm wrong. But I don't. And I'm trying to, and the whole time I'm thinking is like, how if I had to rewrite it into what I think would be scary, how would I do it? I can't give a clear answer, and I don't know if that devalues my argument or anything, but it like comes out and he's like running and it's just big ass like
see,
eyes.
To me, I don't have a problem with that because Pennywise has already been established as this monstrous creature that makes caricatures of your fears. And I think that's consistent with what he does to terrorize people.
Well, and that's like, I get that, and I don't have an issue with that. What I have an issue with is that it like, Pennywise was genuinely creepy in the first movie, and it like you had like that, and then like some of the stuff they did show was creepy. It's just that like this stuff, I don't know, it comes off as goofy. I'll pull up another example, just to provide. Just to
you
go
better not mention the bleachers scene because that was legit. That's probably one of my favorite kills in the whole movie. The
one with the little girl.
The little girl at the softball game.
When he's all like, look at the little light, be my friend.
Which they used for the trailer,
I think. Well, they used the part where he's like, hello.
Yeah.
It wasn't that part. I didn't really have an issue with that one. No, that one wasn't one of them. It really wasn't. It was more like, it was more the stuff during this part where he's just kind of going after each of like the adults, like, going through.
What about that scene where the camera like pans over and the kid is one of the adults?
Yes, Ben's whole thing. Oh my god, that stuff was so goofy. It's Ben's flashback and like, he tries like kiss Beverly, and then Beverly is just like talking straight shit on him, and then she straight up looks like a fucking like thing, like a bad like CGI like Dark Phoenix looking thing. Like she sets on fire, and it's just like that looked goofy. Like the smile where she's like, because it's like, I get she's set on fire because she like smokes. I get what they were going with that, but again, I think it looks more funny than it does scary. And then the part that Chris is referencing is when he goes to hide in the locker and she's like whatever, and he's like standing there, the camera like he like backs up, the camera pans, and then Pennywise is behind him, but he's making such a stupid ass like face that's not like, it's not creepy Pennywise. It's not like, he can be creepy, he can look creepy, but this face in particular just looked so goofy and stupid. Like I literally remember watching that in the theater. I started like crying laughing because they do the whole jump scare sound, like it pans over, just go brrr, and he's just like it's just like I don't think that it's scary. I don't like, it doesn't look scary, and especially with that one, it's like, if you wanted that to be scary, then have him look creepy. He can look creepy, and that's the thing too, is with like, I don't like.
The only problem I have with that scene is just how spacious the locker looks like.
That's
inside.
True too. How do they like two full people?
It looks
in
like
there?
a full-on closet.
And Ben was like the fat kid. Like, you could have a lot of room in that locker. Like,
yeah, no. I mean, I don't argue CGI anymore, just because CGI always looks like looks fake to me in every movie. The only movies where it doesn't is literally Avatar, Lord of the Rings, and Jurassic Park, the original Jurassic Park.
Okay.
All other movies, I can always tell CGI, 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 CGI. So I don't even argue it anymore because one, you know, you will never make CGI look as good as real life, and two, studios clearly have no interest going back to practical effects. I had personally hoped that Mad Max Fury Road would kind of reignite that passion.
Yeah.
Everybody loved it, everybody praised it for it, and yet the studios are just like, whoosh, yeah, right over their head. So I've given up on that argument. To me, it's a pointless argument because it's not gonna show any signs of changing anytime soon.
Right.
But I get it. I mean, to me, it's more of the off-putting goofiness of Pennywise. To me, that's what makes it work, is because he is Pennywise the dancing clown. He is there to fuck with you. He is there to amuse himself. You know.
Yeah.
If that's a problem, then then Freddy Krueger fucking with people and being silly in their dream sequences is a problem.
Well, and that's
it's just like, this is his domain. He's having fun. He's toying with his food.
Well, I mean, Danny, are you saying it's not creepy from the audience's point of view or the kid's point of view?
I'm saying from the audience point of view, and that's the thing is like. It's like, I get it. It's like, oh, like to amuse himself or anything. Scenes like the bleacher scene with the girl, yeah, that's off-putting and it's strange because you don't know how to feel in that moment, and I get that. But there are just certain scenes where it's like the way that it's presented is just, it doesn't feel like it's trying to be goofy or funny. It just feels unintentional. Yeah, like shit like Freddy Krueger, yeah, like when he, like, the one I remember the best is from the first one where he, like, cuts his finger off and he's, like, smiling, laughing, or, yeah, he's obviously fucking with them and whatnot, but it's just certain parts like that, like the old lady one, where it's like, it doesn't feel like it's trying to be goofy or funny. It feels like I'm supposed to take this seriously, or it's wanting to be scary, but it's not scary.
I guess this is more of a personal issue for me because I've been watching horror movies since for as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
Like, literally. So I'm kind of jaded when it comes to horror films. Not in the sense that I don't really care or anything like that. It's more like I've seen pretty much everything you can do in a horror film, short of making it a full-on snuff film.
Mm-hmm.
So I never judge a horror film by whether or not it scares me, because 99.9% of them don't scare me. And that to me is not a mark against the film. It's just, I've seen so much of it, it doesn't affect me anymore. So you could say I've become, desensitized to it, but that's not entirely true, because there are still movies where realistic violence does unsettle me. A good example of what I'm talking about is, what would be a good example? Well, in the Evil Dead remake, when one of the final people gets possessed by the spirits, I think his name was actually Eric. He comes at one of his friends with a hammer and just starts bludgeoning him and bludgeoning him. To me, that's terrifying. I don't know what it is about hammering a person, using a hammer on a person, but something about that is just so viscerally unsettling to me that I look away. I legitimately look away because it bothers me seeing someone take a hammer to another human being. I could watch somebody get shredded in half by a chainsaw,
Yeah.
or turned into Swiss cheese with a gun. But a hammer is just like, no, I can't do that.
Well, you know
that freaks me out.
Well, you know what I think.
So,
and
what I was just gonna say is, so when something like the locker scene happens, and somebody says, "Oh, well, it's not scary to me," it's hard for me to be like, "Yeah, you're right," because most of it isn't scary to me. Nothing about It Chapter 2 actually scares me. The closest thing to scaring me was the little girl under the bleachers, because that was real in a lot of ways to me. It had a very
like childhood innocence, like
yeah,
that.
yeah, or the opening sequence with the gay couple getting brutalized. I mean, that was, and that feels very real world. So those are the two that I find unsettling. Does it scare me? No, but the vast majority of horror movies don't scare me. So I guess for me, what I'm saying is, it's difficult for me to register what is supposed to be frightening for me, because it doesn't frighten me at all.
Right.
Like, you want to see me scared, we'll play a horror game, because that's much more interactive.
Yeah. Well, and here's my thing. It's like I'm not expecting this movie to like make me piss my pants in fear or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's an R-rated, almost 3-hour-long horror movie. It's coming off the heels of the first one that was genuinely creepy. I wasn't, again, like, I'm not like fucking like afraid to go to sleep at night or anything, but it's like, it was genuinely creepy. So all I ask is from a horror movie to have some sort of like, element of horror, and if it's R-rated, then yeah, go all out. Now, I agree that scenes like the beginning scene with the gay couple, that in my opinion was a little too real for comfort for me. The one with the bleachers too was just, that one was just I think that one in particular, like,
it recaptures the death of not Billy. Was it Billy?
Well, no, Billy was the brother.
Billy was the brother. What was his brother's name?
Did we forget too?
Did I write it down in the notes?
The further you get from Derry, the more you forget.
Oh shit!
But it kind of you know what I'm saying?
No, yeah.
It recaptured that from the start of the first movie,
right?
Where it's more of just the annihilation of this innocent child, and yeah, that's unnerving. Did I have nightmares about it? No.
No, and that's the thing, is like.
To me, I guess it's more like, I'm looking at it as like, do I believe that the character is frightened in their current situation? If so, then okay, good, it's effective. I don't really gauge it by whether or not I find it scary, because of course I'm not gonna find it scary, because I'm watching a horror movie. It's not real. When I was in kindergarten, my kindergarten was 2 stories, and it was Christmas time, and there was a Santa Claus upstairs and downstairs, and that scared the hell out of me. And as adults now, we would laugh at that and be like, it's not scary, what the hell? But to a child, it's horrifying.
How is he in 2 places?
Yeah, like, what the fuck? He's not even supposed to be real, and there's 2 of them.
It just reminds me of It just reminds me of the like YouTube video I saw a while ago that was like, the guy was in like a Walmart or something. He has like a camera, and there's like a kid in the aisle. He goes like 2 aisles, and there's the same kid, and like the X-Files theme started playing. It's like, that is creepy. It's scary.
So yeah, to me, it's more of just like the divorce of what the movie's trying to do to scare its characters versus what the movie's doing to try and scare me.
Yeah. And it's like, and I understand that, and I get that, and that was the whole thing, especially going to this. It's like it's the same way with like comedy. It's like, I feel like horror is subjective. That's why you have so many different branches of like, horror movies. You have, people don't find like ghosts and possessions scary. Well, maybe they find like aliens scary, you get Alien, or the other vice versa. You got all the fucking Blumhouse and whatnot, or if they like, or if like violence and whatnot, then you got Saw. It's like, I get that, and I get that is subjective, and that's in your case where it's like you've seen so many. It's like, And I get that. I understand that. I just feel like this movie, like the first one was creepy, and I just was expecting, not expecting, I was wanting that same vibe that the one had nailed, the creepy vibe, and I just, in my opinion, I feel like it had dropped it off. But I get that it's like, it's subjective, and I get that. So
I guess what it is ultimately the odd um it's an unusual story because it's a story that literally spans roughly 40 years.
right,
And it starts with children. And what frightens and terrifies children is very different from what frightens and terrifies adults. But with the story, it's supposed to be the same thing that frightens them at two separate points in their lives. And I think there is a disconnect there that's hard for a lot of people to be able to accept, because just like, why are they scared of this? They're adults.
yeah,
And maybe they don't word it that way in their own minds, but I think that is the underlying probably disconnect people have with it, is just like, these are adults and they're running from a clown.
Well, and then like in like certain parts of it, it's like, because they bring up the other fears one, like go back to what we were talking about, the Richie thing. It's like, yeah, I get like that can absolutely have an impact on them still as like an adult, but then you also get stuff like Eddie, who's like the whole like thing with like the leper and whatnot, and then like he's an adult and he has to fight the gross like thing with the tongue and whatnot. It's like, it's just, it's a dude like.
What about the lumberjack?
Well, but like the lumberjack part doesn't come back out when he's an adult, and that's what I'm saying is like, yeah, like as a kid, like, okay, if that thing came out when he was like an adult, then yeah, I would have.
Well, I would say that the lumberjack is probably a metaphor for like really strong masculinity, and there is that kind of I mean, you think about how we visualize lumberjacks, it is kind of homoerotic. You know, you look at the brawny guy, for example. He's this really studly guy. He's got a tight, yeah. He's got that tight flannel shirt on. It's just like, it's kind of homoerotic.
Yeah.
And you know, that's fine. I think it's consistent with Richie's fear. And to me, Richie's fear is the only one that really translates well into an adult fear as well. Yeah. Because that is something that a lot of adults struggle with.
Yeah.
But I get it. And as far as Eddie, I mean, Eddie is a hypochondriac, and we establish early on that he marries a woman that's exactly like his mother. So it kind of makes sense that he's still wrestling with the leper. Mm-hmm. But I would say that, you know, in his flashback, he overcomes it.
Yeah.
He starts choking out the leper. He starts killing him. And that's when we get that ridiculous musical clip.
That weird part that just,
like, I get what they were doing with that, and it is a funny gag, but it's just like, follow through with it or don't do it.
But can you also imagine like having seen that scene and not recognizing it from like Deadpool? You'd be like, what the fuck is this song that just played for a second?
Yeah.
See, it made me laugh because I was like, oh, it's the fucking Deadpool song.
I think that, if I were to guess, I would say they did that to kind of ease the grossness of someone being thrown up on by a plagued individual. Like, that was probably to make it easier for the audience to take that.
But it was just a weird choice.
It is a weird choice. It should have, if they're going to play the gag, it should have been a little bit longer, at least like 20 seconds longer.
Yeah,
because the way the gag worked, it was very serious and intense.
And then there's this, not even like, it's like a blip of Angel of the Morning, and it's like, I agree with you. It's like, why, like this like 5-second blip, like just enough for us to be like, wait, what the...
Well, to me, it's like, it's a gag because it's literally his worst fear coming, and instead of making it horrifying, they make it a gag, and that's fine because you know, like, you remember Cabin in the Woods?
Yeah.
And you remember how one of the administration guys was just like, oh man, I was really hoping for a merfolk or whatever they call it,
Yeah.
a merman. And he's just constantly going about how they didn't activate the merman to kill them. And then what ends up happening? The merman shows up when everything's going to hell and eats the administrative guy that always wanted to see it.
Yeah.
And that's the gag. And I think they were kind of going for something like that, where it's just like it's not what he was hoping for.
Right.
It's literally his worst fear. And that's the joke. But they didn't deliver the joke very
See,
well.
that, when you're like explaining it, yeah, that's funny. I love that. That's fucking hilarious. If that's what they were trying to do, then I feel like they really missed the mark. If that's what they were trying to do,
it's like they gave the setup of the joke, but didn't deliver the punchline.
Yeah.
At the end.
Because after the music stops playing, the intense scary music kicks right back.
It does.
Yeah, it's a weird edit.
It shifts you right back to where it was before.
Yeah. It's such it's bizarre.
It's a weird edit. I don't know why they did. I mean, I can guess why did it, but it
doesn't work.
I don't know why they edited it so short like that.
Yeah.
Now, there's a couple I want to do, kind of like not a rapid fire. But there's a couple scenes I want to get both your opinions on that I think would be very interesting.
Okay. So kind of rapid fire, but we'll see.
Yeah, mostly because these are, I feel like these are like pivotal scenes.
Okay.
But like, they're not gonna be in any particular order.
Okay.
Just the ones I can. So what? You guys can decide who goes first, but I want to know, what is your opinion when, Billy goes into the funhouse with the mirrors
to get the one kid
to chase after the kid, and then Pennywise is there.
Okay.
I want to know, like, I assume you both remember that scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I thought it was great. To me, it kind of it made perfect sense, because he was driven to do that because his instinct to go help save his little brother, which he failed to do. It was like he was getting a second chance to do it, and so that's why he chased after the kid, and he failed again, which is what his worst fear was.
Mm-hmm.
No, I like it. I thought it was great.
I like the majority of it. I agree that it feeds off of his need to like redeem himself from losing his little brother. By going after him. Like, I get that. The one thing I will say, I just wish that Pennywise's kill, like the kid, I wish that he had just done it in a more sinister way. The one that I would have thought he could have done was like, I don't know. You know how like something with like a sharp claw, like just like cut the glass or something like that. Something more like play up the sinister or intensity of that. I wish they had done it. The head banging thing, it caught me off guard, and that was just another thing that made me laugh. Again, subjective, I get it. That's just another thing that made me laugh, and that's the thing, is like, that's the one thing, is like, I wish they had just done something to like build up that intensity. Other than that, I like the scene, and again, I agree that him going after it makes sense. He going after the kid.
Yeah, well, I mean, to that effect, I'd say him hitting his head is like, it's so unnatural, and that's, I think, it's what clued the little kid in that something was really, really wrong, and not just that two creepy guys were chasing after him. Yeah. It's just like, no, one is trying to protect him and one is trying to kill him. Mm-hmm. And just the unnaturalness of it happening, I think, is... could they have done it better? I mean, they were in a hall of mirrors. Yeah, they could have played with the whole imagery of, oh, which mirror is he actually in? And then maybe he actually isn't in a space. He jumps out of a mirror and just eats the kid. That could have been...
That could have worked as well.
That could have worked really well. I get what they were doing, though.
No, I get it, too.
And, I thought overall it worked.
That was actually one of the scenes that I remember it being a lot not worse, but I remember having a lot more issues. But then I rewatched and it was like, okay, this isn't as bad. And I do like the build up of him having to try and run through the funhouse and whatnot.
And any excuse to have a fair in a horror movie is great.
Oh yeah,
because fairs are terrifying.
Yeah,
like.
Well, fairs are terrifying, but it's also like the juxtaposition of having this. Oh, everyone's happy.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
the
yeah,
kids going
exactly.
down the roller coaster.
Yeah. It's part of why I love Hellfest so much. Such an underappreciated horror film.
Yeah.
Oh man, that movie.
It's so great.
That was the one that.
It came out literally like a week or two before Halloween 2018.
Yeah, it came out. I remember
That was a bad move on their part.
We were working, right?
Yeah.
Like, it was only there for like a few weeks. I wanted to see it.
Oh, I have it if you want to watch it after
shit.
this.
There
It's
we
fucking
go.
great.
Yeah.
It's sad because it flopped so hard and yet
I remember it not leaving the small theater.
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
the crazy thing. It was like one of the few times where the critics and the audiences both liked it, but because it hadn't really been advertised much,
Yeah.
it didn't perform well, and so now it's never going to have a sequel, even though it's written to have one.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck, man.
Damn.
Could have had a whole new franchise there.
Yep, there we go. Okay, but Chris, you said you had a second one?
Sorry. So the next scene I wanted to bring up was when they're all at the restaurant in the beginning, and then shit gets real.
Oh, with the
fortune cookies.
Okay, I will go ahead and I'll volunteer to start this one.
I volunteer.
I volunteer. I'm gonna give a quick story. So I remember when we worked at the movie theater, and I remember being a theater checker, which, for those of you at home, the little person who runs in the theater with a little torchlight and waves it around. Yeah.
Stop getting angry at them. They're just trying to
Seriously,
make sure that people
trying to-
aren't like being disruptive or underage drinking is
Yeah. Hey, if you get mad at a minimum wage worker working in a movie theater, fuck you. Anyways, I was doing theater checker for one of the first nights that this movie was opening. I literally walked in on this scene with like the fortune cookies and the fucking like eldritch horrors all coming out. I immediately was like, what the fuck is happening? I actually do quite like this scene with the dinner and everything, and then all the fucking shit with the craziness with like everything breaking out of the cookies and whatnot. I like it because it is so fucking like out there and very eldritch horror. It's just like these fucking things are all happening.
And then it turns out that it wasn't actually happening at all. It was just Pennywise announcing his presence to the Losers Club.
Well,
I thought it was great.
I was gonna get to that, but I actually do like it just because the creativity of it. I kind of wish there was a little bit more of that through the movie, just because it was just so like, someone had to like make these like concept art of all these little fucking monsters, probably others we didn't even see. The whole idea of it, I liked Richie as an adult. I like his reaction. He's like, what the fuck is that? Like, it's just like, he sounded so fucking over it already. I was like, I relate.
That's why he's my favorite character.
What was it? Hold on. There was like that part where they realized that it's...
You know what I really like about it now that I'm thinking about it?
Yeah.
It reminds me of Pan's Labyrinth. It reminds me of... It's like something that would have happened at that feast with the monster with the eyes on its hands.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like a sequence that would have happened in that scene. And... I think you describe it perfectly as eldritch horror. It's just like...
Well, I mean, like eldritch or cosmic horror, just like some fucking bullshit that you can't explain. Okay, here's what it was. I literally made a note because because this part was I could tell this was genuinely meant to be funny, because literally everyone is like screaming and like all this shit's happening, and then fucking Mike starts smashing the table with a chair, and he's like, it's not real, and then what happens is the fucking like the waitress lady just walks in on this, and she's like, is everything okay? And I was just like, that part made me fucking lose it. It was just like, because I imagine the idea he's fucking like smashing it, and this lady's like, is everything okay? It's like, is it? I don't know, that part. I do like that part. That part was good.
Yeah, no, I like it a lot.
It's it's creative. I wish there was a little bit more of that through the movie, only because it was like there's so much happening, and it's like I don't know,
because it's not just a scene that establishes that the Losers Club is back. It establishes that Pennywise is back with the Losers Club, and I think that's why it works so beautifully. And it's just like, God, for movies that do this, where it's like reoccurring characters coming back to their old horrors, there should be more scenes like that. For movies that do that sort of thing.
I also think just in general, I would love it if more like scary movies did fucking like scenes like this that were just so like what the fuck, like all these crazy like you can't explain them things, like all the things in the fortune cookies. I don't know, for whatever reason I just really like how creative those things were designed. One of them is just like a fucking bat wing flying around, like
other one's a eyeball with the
little
tendons.
like tentacles,
Yeah.
I don't know, it was just something about that was just so creative, and it's like I genuinely just loved it for the creativity of all those things.
The fly with the baby's face.
Exactly. Although that thing was the fucking worst one.
Yeah,
it was the first one.
That was legitimately creepy.
Literally,
what?
But that's what I'm saying is like I literally was doing theory checks. I literally walked in. That thing came out and started screaming. I was like, "What the fuck is this?"
It's like a bad acid trip.
I was like, "Oh god."
Okay, you got another one for us?
Another scene I wanted to is, what did you guys think about the ritual and I forget the name of the guy.
Mike?
Yes. Him keeping it a secret that they could all die if they do the ritual or fail the ritual.
I liked their reaction where they're just like, "What the fuck, dude?" And he's like, "No, like it's fine. I had to get you guys down here."
Yeah, I think it made total sense, because it's just like if he had been upfront about all the details, they would have bounced. And he knew that. He knew that like half of the battle was getting them there, and the other half of the battle was convincing them that they could do it. And if he had told them that, they wouldn't have done it, and it would have gone south for all of them. And the reaction, I thought, was perfectly logical too.
I will say this:
Would have been mine.
when it didn't work, and they're all like, "What the fuck?" If they didn't call Mike out for that bullshit, because literally Mike was like, "Good, they didn't believe her," because they're like, "What the fuck happened with the last people?" It's like they didn't believe her enough. If everyone else didn't call him out for that, I would have been like, "No, this is stupid." I gave it a pass, so just because like they did call him out for it, because that was fucking stupid. He's like, "Oh, they didn't. They just had to believe in friendship harder." It's like, no, what the fuck? It's like,
well, it wasn't believing in friendship,
but it was like,
it was, and that's actually what I really like, was that the way they defeated him was realizing that he's not a threat. And to me, that sums it up. Like, the whole movie is about overcoming your fears, right? And one of the best ways to overcome your fear is to, like, diminish it as a threat. And to be like, no, I'm not going to let you be a threat anymore. And that's how you overcome fear, right? So if he's supposed to be the embodiment of fears, if he's supposed to be the, what is it they call it in Harry Potter? The boggle, or not a boggle.
The ogre?
No, the closet creature, where it comes out and it takes on the form of their worst fear. It's literally Pennywise in Harry Potter
that
land.
thingy. Yeah, it was in the third one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
I forget what it is, but yes, I know what you're talking about.
I'm sure that J.K. Rowling got the idea from it. That's really what it is. And to me, it's just like, some people may find that ridiculous way of defeating a monster, but it's just like, the monster feeds off of fear. It makes you frightened and eats you. If you overcome that fear, if you don't allow it to be yourself to be afraid, it loses its power. And well, yeah, like, and the way they kept pointing out in the first movie is like, we were able to hurt it when we were together. And when you're, safety in numbers. You're less afraid when you're with your friends, right, than when you're alone.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, the whole thing works, I thought, at the end.
And I mean, like, my thing with it is, like, with the ending, I I get what they go with that part. I don't know. I mean, like, I do think it's like somewhat absurd, like 30, 40 somethings where they're like basically yelling like second, third grade insults at a fucking like eldritch monster because they're like, you're a
Space
clown, you're stupid, like all like this stuff. It's like that. I get it when you go with the theme of like, you know, like conquering like the like what you're afraid of or your trauma when it's like I get it and I understand that that's kind of what the vibe they're going with. I think it feels just very like
What, immature, childish,
I
goofy?
I don't want to say goofy because I keep saying goofy, but I don't I don't want to say immature because I don't feel like that's the right. I feel like that's aggressive. I feel like that's not
Like
the right way we're
silly?
going with.
Because instead, like they're beating up this infinitely powerful space monster with, you're just a dumb clown.
And,
Is
like,
that what you're thinking?
That's what I'm thinking, but and then like at the same time, it's like I'm not trying to discredit when you know what you're talking about, where it's like it's them like overcoming their fear or overcoming their trauma and whatnot. It's like I understand that and I get that. I think maybe it is like again,
the
it's a
contrast.
the contrast. I was gonna say it's like I think it is just one of those things where it's like it is subjective, you know, and it's like I. I find it absurd, but at the same time, it's like when you put it in that perspective, it's like I see what they're going for, but yeah, maybe it is just like the contrast of like you know everything going up and then everything building up to this climax of them just yelling silly insults at the killer monster. But
Because I can understand if you look at it like on a surface level, if you like you're fighting this creature of infinite power, and the way you're defeating him is by being mean to it. It's like
Well, I think the point of it was that it wasn't infinitely powerful. It made itself seem like it was infinitely powerful.
right,
And what they were doing was acknowledging that it didn't,
yeah,
and that it was all just a hoax, ultimately a deception.
yeah, and that's kind of what I was like, because like I agree with you. It's like it kind of goes with that theme of like overcoming because it's like I don't know like trauma when you have plenty of people where it's like they go through so much stuff and it's like they think that controls their life and it's like kind of overcoming that idea.
Mhm.
If that's what it's going for then I understand that. I and it's like okay like it doesn't feel as like I don't know. I'm trying to think of like the right word for it, but it's just like I can understand it better
Juvenile.
with that. Yeah, I can understand it better when you put it in that perspective, and it's like okay,
in context.
in context,
It makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the thing was like upon rewatching it, like because I remember like rewatching, I was like okay, I'm dreading this part because I remember fucking thinking it was goofy, but then rewatching, I'm like okay, I can see what they're kind of going with. It's like I understand it better with this context. So.
Well, and that's the thing. Like if you're gonna do eldritch horror, you have to acknowledge that the concept of eldritch or cosmic horror is that it is illogical.
Yeah.
That is what makes it frightening. Is that there is no logic to it, and the moment you project logic onto it, it loses what it is.
Yeah.
And it has no obligation to make sense to you.
Yeah.
Whatsoever. And that's why I think a lot of movies that try and tackle those themes fail horribly because they try and put logic to it. They try and put rationality towards it. And you know, part of what Lovecraft's writing with his work is that what's frightening about it is that it's so beyond our thinking.
Yeah.
It just is.
It just is. And it doesn't give a fuck about our reason, our intellect, or anything like that.
Yeah.
And this movie, I think, does a good job of it. I mean, there aren't a lot of movies that do it well. I mean, I'd say It does it well. John Carpenter's The Thing and In the Mouth of Madness do it very well,
Mm-hmm.
and that's really about it. Like,
There's
I mean,
not a lot that tackle it, and then there's very fewer that get it right.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
like, as a huge, like, Junji Ito fan, like, yes, absolutely, cosmic horror, like, eldritch horror all the way, for sure. So.
Yeah.
But yeah.
There was the other thing I want to bring up, because now we've talked about the ending, too, so that's cool. I don't mean that about... I mean, like, yeah, that was one of the things I wanted to ask you guys about, was your opinions on how the ending and the defeat of it happened.
Yeah.
I want to ask, what did you think about the fight?
Like, when he's, like, the giant
He's
monster
the giant,
and whatnot.
like his arachni form,
Yeah.
and that whole battle.
I liked it. It was like something. It was like a nightmare sequence.
Yeah. I appreciate that it kept the I was gonna say the kids, but they're the adults, obviously. I liked that they still felt, for the most part, powerless,
Mhm.
you know, when trying to fight this. I will say that the only thing that I really have an issue with as far as that main fight is just that it ends up kind of feeling stop and go when they get separated, and then you have, like, I forget which ones. It was Richie, and I think it was Richie and Eddie that had to do, like, the door thing again. And they're kind of spending time with that.
The talking to the what was it, a Pomeranian?
It was like a little
I
Pomeranian.
love that sequence. It's so
I like
fucking great.
No, I
that
like
sequence was hilarious.
I like the sequence. It's just that when it's placed with this high stakes, like, climactic fight with the thing, again, it's very much reflective of my thing with the flashbacks. Is I feel like the pacing just gets really off with that.
I would disagree, because I think that's them indulging in a little bit of a meta.
Yeah.
I think they're indulging in a little bit of fourth wall breaking, where Rich and Eddie are basically saying what the audience is thinking. They're like, oh, fuck that thing, man, that's a monster. I fucking know it's a monster. And then it doesn't do anything. You're like, it is pretty cute, though. It's just but that's... And then the moment that their guard goes down, of course, it becomes a monster. And that's exactly what the audience would do. I mean... No.
And I agree with that. I like the sequence. It really is just the placement of it in the high-stakes climax that it's like, that's the only thing is, like, I just wish it didn't mess the pacing up with the rest of it. It's not the problem with the sequence. I like that part. I really do. It's it's just the placement of it.
But I think it works because we've already saw in the first movie when they went into the spooky house how he fucks with them individually the moment that they're separated from each other. So another threat could be going on, but because these guys have moved away from the rest of the group, they're confronted with something else entirely.
Right.
And to me, it's consistent with that sequence from the first movie.
Right.
I mean, whether or not, again, to me, it's about bringing a little bit of levity to an otherwise very grim, dark scene, to just kind of give some breathing room for the audience to be able to laugh and relax before the tension ramps up again.
Right. No, and I get that. Anything before?
What did you think during this fight, they each sort of kind of had to relive that, like, fear moment as an adult.
Yeah.
Like, you had Mike being buried. I think it was Mike.
No,
that was Ben.
That was Ben. Mike was
he was talking to the kid, the little brother.
Yeah.
Because he was watching the little brother, and then he was watching him, like, his younger self, like, there too. Yeah.
And then
Beverly.
No, Mike. That's not Mike. That's Billy.
Oh yeah, Mike. Okay. Oh my God, these names. That's Billy. Mike. I don't remember. If
Wasn't Mike though? He was the one that he went in the store and everybody was whispering about how he burned his parents alive.
Was that happening during all this?
I think that's what it was. Yeah.
Okay, because I remember Billy, I remember Ben, I remember Beverly.
Beverly was locked in the
There's
stall.
so many bees.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, like,
and her and Ben ended up kind of sharing their horror,
which they kind of
which was the moment where Ben was finally honest about his feelings with her, which I thought was very poetically done.
Yeah,
that was nice.
Do you guys feel like the individual sequences they all shared was a good thing to include, or was it unnecessary?
I think.
And did they do it well?
I think that it works in that it shows each of them as adults kind of overcoming Billy, especially. I think Billy especially overcomes, because that's the part where he like tells himself, it's like, no, you were the big brother, you had to do whatever. With the exception of the one part where like the little kid is just screaming, "You lie and I die," and it's just like repeating that. I don't know why that got me. That just kind of made me giggle. He's just like, it's like the kid's voice. I think it's just how high pitched it is, and him yelling shit. It was the same thing. What the You Float 2 thing, or it's the same thing. It's like, I don't know what it is. It's just kind of fun to repeat and fun to watch him yell it. But no, I think the scenes are fine, because in that it does show, and it does help strengthen the adults, growing from what the kids, as kids, what they were dealing with. So I think that's fine, and I think that makes sense. It was those three, right? It was those three. And then
those were the primary ones.
Those were the primary ones.
Yeah.
That's what I was remembering. So
yeah, I think it works, because it's basically the culmination of all their fears coming to, I don't want to say fruition, but it's coming to a head where they're all kind of coming together to their source.
Yeah.
And it's like all these separate stories that we've been watching developed are finally all meeting at like a crossroads.
Yeah.
And the crossroads is this climax where they finally realize that Pennywise really has no hold over them anymore.
Right.
So no, I thought it might have. I don't know how. I'm not a filmmaker. I don't know how they would have done it better, but
no, and that's the thing,
for
is
what
like,
it is, I thought it worked.
And that's the thing, is like, I don't think the scenes needed to be better or anything. I think it's like, I like those parts in particular is like, especially I think Billy's was the one that I liked out of those. Just him like telling his younger self, like, no, like, I don't know, it's something about that. I think it's because like, being the child of a therapist, it's like the whole idea of having like an inner child, and like, talking to your inner child, when that's like that, I think is like, that makes sense, and that's a mindset that it's like, okay, I can get behind that.
I was genuinely sad when Eddie died, though. I mean, I thought that was just like
that one. Okay, I didn't remember it being as like heavy when I first watched it, but when I rewatched it, I was like, oh shit, that, like, I wasn't like bawling or anything, but it was kind of sad, and I don't know, it sucked, because it was like he did have that little hero moment finally.
Yeah. And then it was taken from him.
Yeah, I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it was decently sad. I'm glad that. Actually, it's funny, on the subject of death. It's like I felt sad for this. I felt more sad for this one than I did with the one guy Stanley, who ended up killing himself in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's just because I genuinely could not remember for the life of me what the kid did in the first one until they showed the flashback. I was like, oh, he's that kid. But I remember Eddie way more. I don't know if it was just
the one everybody forgot, so we just killed him.
The throw. Yeah, and I mean, like, it's funny too, because that his scene in the beginning, his suicide scene, it's actually funny because they did it in a nice way.
I thought it was tasteful.
Yeah. But it was the one part where I was like, man, like, I remember how goofy like the mini series was, and it's like, not that I wanted it, I liked it being more serious, but it was like, oh, you guys, you couldn't do this one goofy where like she walks in and she's like, ah. That part was funny. That's the only reference as far as the miniseries for me. But yes, that I felt more sad with Eddie's death. Maybe it was just because like we got to see a lot more of him through the first one and then this one, obviously. But I was glad that he got his little hero moment.
Yeah.
What about the letter at the end?
Oh, the letter from Stanley.
Oh, it was from Stanley.
Yeah, about him taking his life and why, and all of what he said.
I forgot everything. Like, not everything. Most of. Maybe did I write it down in the notes?
We'll start with Eric.
Well, I think he mentioned he took himself out of the equation because he knew he was too afraid. And because of that, he would have
weighed him down.
Yeah, he would have compromised them all. I think I'm remembering that correctly. I mean,
roughly.
It helps explain it. I feel like it was less of an explanation of Stanley's reasons and more of just like a goodbye.
Yeah.
For the characters as a whole, like it's kind of like Frodo's last entry in the book in Return of the King towards at the end of the movie, and it's just kind of like, you know, final thoughts, you know, saying goodbyes and whatnot, and this is us moving on. It works. It's a little on the cliche side, but it worked.
I'm indifferent to it as well. It's, you know, I think as well as it kind of runs on the cliche side just because it's like, okay, this is how we're kind of ending the movie. It's like, all right, but it's fine for what it is. It's like I don't have any issue with it really. It just it kind of comes and goes. It's like, all right. Were there any other points you had, Chris?
I wanted to ask you guys, with you seeing the movie and rewatching it, and any of the notes you've taken, was there any other points you wanted to bring up that were impactful, positive or negative, or
I did have
opinions?
I did have one thought. I actually did want to ask you, Eric, what you thought of the bully, what the fuck is whatever his name was.
Oh, you know, I actually. Believe it or not, I actually wish they had done more with him. I thought he was an interesting monkey wrench in their gearworks, and I feel like they could have done more with him. Again, I don't know how he fit in the book, and if he had more to do in the book. More than likely he does, because Stephen King is a long-winded writer. But yeah, like,
because the last time we saw him, he fell down the well at the end of the first movie.
Yeah,
and then we basically just assume he's dead.
Yeah, we assume he's dead, but rule number 1 of all horror: if they don't die on screen, assume they're still alive.
Right. Henry, that's his name. I was trying to find the note, and I was like, okay, it's Henry. No, believe it or not, I agree with you. I wish they had done more with him. Yeah. It's funny because I loved the scene in the first one where he, like, was it his dad he killed or whatnot?
Yeah.
That part was unnerving. I loved that scene in the first one.
Yeah.
This one, like, it's funny, I wanted to bring this up. The guy who's playing him, he looks like he's having, like, the time of his life. Like,
yeah, no,
every scene
like,
he's in.
This dude legitimately lost his mind.
He's so, like, happy and, like, goofy, and, like, the one part where, like, Ben, like, was it? I think it was Ben. Yeah, Ben looks out the window, and, like, he had just been stabbed, and he's pulling out the knife, and he just kind of looks, he's, like, kind of, like, smiling, laughing. Yeah. I don't know why. It's just, like, something about it. Maybe it was just because it's, like, there were already multiple parts that had made me laugh and giggle. Like, this guy is, like, something about it was just, like, it was hammy, but in a little lovable way that it was like, I do wish they had done more with him. And that's the thing too, is like,
he's a comic book villain, but in a good way.
In a good way.
Like, this is the lunatic that's escaped from Arkham Asylum.
Yeah.
And is running loose. Yeah, like, I would have loved to have seen more of a character arc for him.
Yeah.
And yes, you talk about casting somebody that looks like a kid 30 years later. I mean, this guy, I thought was a perfect choice.
He looked pretty good.
Like he really does look like that kid 30 years in the future.
No,
like,
he does.
Dead on. That is actually Chris, you said if we have anything. That is something I would like to talk about, the casting.
Oh yeah, we haven't talked about the casting, huh?
I have a much different cast in mind.
For the adults?
Yes,
Okay.
I am.
The original X-Men.
I am sick of James McAvoy. Not because he's a bad actor. He's a superb actor. I'm sick of him being in fucking everything. It's just like I think there was about a year or two period where he was in like 4 or 5 movies in a 1 year span. And it's just I'm tired of him. And frankly, he's not the first person I would have chosen for Billy. My first choice actually would have been Luke Wilson, the guy, the lead in Conjuring. He also played Ocean Master in Aquaman.
Oh, he was I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
the main,
War Machine.
Not War Machine. I was gonna say the Warrens. Was it the Warrens for The Conjuring?
Yeah.
It was
The Warrens.
He's the
Yeah,
husband.
okay.
He's the husband.
Yeah. He's Ed Warren.
Actually, no. Okay, no. Continue your point.
But I thought he would have been a much better Billy. I would have chosen Chris Pratt to play Richie.
Mm-hmm.
Though I will say Bill Hader did a lot better than I thought he would.
Yeah.
I was most pleasantly surprised by him. He was the one I kind of like changed my opinion on. But I still say Chris Pratt would have been a phenomenal Richie.
Mm-hmm.
Slap a long curly hair wig on Chris Pratt and
Well, like Bill Hader just wasn't curly.
Yeah,
well,
not
he cut
really.
it short.
But his hair, like,
It wasn't very curly.
and not to
at all.
mention,
it was
like,
a little
what
wavy.
Finn
but...
Wolfhard as Richie anyway it wasn't like, I'm thinking like when you say curly, I'm thinking like curly, like
yeah.
like his is like a little, I guess a little bit up, but I wouldn't. Curly is a strong word.
Curly is a strong word.
I love that they chose what was her name who played Beverly?
Jessica Chastain.
Yes. What's crazy about that is when they were talking about casting the role, I'm like, I think Jessica Chastain should be Beverly.
Yeah.
And when they announced, I was like, holy shit,
they were
that's
listening.
fucking listening.
They're listening to the phones.
I struggle with Mike because I feel like Mike needed a bigger name actor to help make his character stand out.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like Mike, as while he had a lot more to do in this movie than he did in the first movie, I feel like he still kind of got lost in the shuffle as far as personalities, and I feel like a bigger actor with a lot more charisma would have been a good choice.
Yeah.
Denzel Washington.
Denzel Washington.
Well, I was gonna say
if he were 10 years younger, I would have said Idris Elba.
I was gonna say like oh god, what's his name? Lawrence Fishburne. If he were
yeah. Or if he were a little older, I would say
Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman. If you're a little older.
I would have said Michael B. Jordan.
Oh yeah, he definitely would have to age up a bit,
but I think he would have been a good choice.
Just a super fucking ripped Mike.
Dude,
like,
right?
Well,
Been
hey,
dairy
you
for
know,
a long time.
yeah, he's had to kill a lot of sheep.
He's been there for a long time. He's got to hit the gym.
He no longer uses the air gun. He just strangles the sheep to death with his bare hands.
All he did was read and do push-ups.
Dude, right?
Doing push-ups while he read.
Yo, right? Oh, did you have any other thoughts for the
I don't know who I would have chosen as Eddie. He's too old for the role now, but like 20 years ago he would Hank Azaria I think would have been a great Eddie.
I don't know who that is.
Hank Azaria, he was...
Do you remember the 97, 98 Godzilla movie? The American Godzilla movie?
Yeah, I love that movie.
Do you remember the goofy cameraman?
Oh, he's wonderful.
Yeah, that's Hank Azaria.
Ah, Hank, what's up, man? Are you watching?
First of all, okay, I want to point this out. You love the American 1997-98 Godzilla movie?
With fucking...
With Matthew... Well, not Matthew Broderick.
Matthew Broderick?
It is Matthew Broderick.
Fuck
Yeah,
yeah, that's a great movie.
Dude, are
I
you
love
for
that
real
fucking
right
movie.
now?
I
You know
love
what?
that goddamn movie.
I like it too.
I mean, okay, no, but
No.
love?
I will watch that movie any day.
Chris, we're gonna have another debate
The
now.
only, I'll tell you right now, the only reason why I don't love that movie is because they kill Godzilla at the end. Spoilers if you haven't seen it,
Yeah.
but at this point, it's on you.
Spoilers if you haven't seen this 22-year-old movie that's older than some people who are listening to this.
But that is the only thing keeping me from loving that movie. I agree with Chris. It is a great film. It captures so much of just the wow factor of Godzilla. Like I fucking I fucking dare you to watch that scene where you see the ocean start rising as he's getting close to the coast, and those hobos on the pier are just like, what the fuck? I dare you not to get chills at
It
that.
captures the wow factor of Godzilla, except what fucking Godzilla looked like.
Okay, so
not to change the movie of this podcast.
That's true. Damn it, we're gonna.
But I do have to say, they established at the beginning, specifically, that they were Komodo dragons that were being affected by the radiation, which is why this Godzilla looked like that. And it wasn't saying that this was the original Godzilla. They had established why it is different.
And in fairness, all previous Godzilla movies, Toho Godzilla movies, they've always been very vague and unclear as to what he is a radiated form of. They've never explained that, and this movie is the only one that ever tried.
All right. It's been a long time since I've seen it.
I sense episode 10 coming up.
No,
right?
no.
Spiral Offcast.
I'm not willing to argue it. If you love it, that's fine. I was just very caught off guard.
Hey, November 3rd, anniversary of Godzilla. Think
No.
I'm joking?
No, it's fine.
Is that when the very first one came out?
Mm-hmm.
Dang.
Yep, that's why, spoilers, they're doing a Fall Guys skin of Godzilla.
Ooh.
Oh, shit.
It's going to cost you 10 crowns.
Well, wait a minute. The guy who actually played Godzilla in the rubber suit in the first movie, he just died like a year ago, didn't he?
Oh, shit, rip.
Oh, shit, did he?
Yeah.
It sounds familiar.
He passed away, I think, maybe 2 years ago, but it was recent. So...
Dang. I don't remember it. I don't know his name. It's just the guy who played the
Yeah,
original
I-
Godzilla.
I'm not good at remembering Japanese names. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Did you have any other, as far as the cast is concerned?
No, I mean, honestly, like that's how they read my mind as far as Beverly, but
Yeah. Okay.
I can't help but wonder what it would have been like with Luke Wilson as Billy. I think he would have been so much better.
Okay. Here's my opinion. As far as no. I love the cast that they got. I agree that Bill Hader was definitely the one that was like, okay, having watched him now, it's like, all right, he did a pretty good job. I don't have much of an opinion with everyone else. I felt like everyone else was fine. I think the thing with Mike, it's like, I don't know. I feel like the thing with Mike in this movie is I feel like, I agree with you, he gets lost as far as personality wise, but I think he gets, like, the way that he kind of was written here was like, I feel like they really used him to just move the plot forward, and like I don't think they really gave him a chance to have a personality.
That's what I mean. Like if you had a much more established actor who could have drawn more of the audience's attention to it, I think it would have helped balance that out.
I think it could have been like that, or also give him a chance to really do something like everyone else did, because he's really the guy who's kind of like, oh, like you have to go do this, you have to go do this, you know. It's like, other than I think the scene in the library where the bully guy goes after him, I feel like he's, as an adult, I feel like he's not really given shot to do stuff. So I agree with you having maybe a different actor, but also I feel like if they had given him more to do other than plots, like be the guy to inform at what has to happen now, maybe that could have been better. That's just what I think. Um, as far as Billy goes with James McAvoy, I will. I I love James McAvoy. And although I don't quite understand your point with him being in too many movies, I'll leave it at that because that's not really what my opinion is with him in this movie. I feel like I honestly I do agree with you. That guy Luke Wilson, is it?
Mm-hmm.
I honestly feel like he could have been a super good Billy. McAvoy in this, it's like it's weird because it's like I love McAvoy. I think he's a strong actor, but it's weird because in this movie it's like I don't feel like he does a lot. I
Yeah.
feel like this is actually one of those times where it's like I see him and it's like I feel like I it's weird. I feel like he's overqualified for this. I feel like we've seen him do way more stuff, and then in this, it's like he feels very like
Phoned in.
kind of phoned in. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like, and maybe it's not even that. It's just like
His
You
is
mean-
by far the weakest performance
Well,
in
do
my
you
opinion.
mean by like he's usually the main actor, and this one he's kind of a side?
it's not
character?
even that.
No.
It isn't even that. It's that I think that like I mean I feel like that in other movies that he's been in, he usually does a lot more, or you see him give a lot more in terms of like, you know, personality and
Like
performance and whatnot. And in this one, it's like I don't think it's that he does a bad job or anything. It's that I don't think and maybe it's just because maybe they like as Billy, maybe they didn't give him a lot to work with or something. I just don't. I feel like I feel like he doesn't do a whole lot, and like you know you see like Bill Hader as Richie. He already had like a really good personality and whatnot. Like in the
He
first
steals
movie,
every
he steals
scene.
it.
Yeah.
Even like Eddie and whatnot, I think is there. Um, Billy, it's like I don't think it's that James McAvoy does a bad job. I don't feel like he does a whole lot, which is weird because I'm used to seeing him doing.
It's
quite a
almost
bit in
like
other
he
movies.
was deliberately dialing it back so that he didn't outshine everybody else.
Maybe
And
that's what
to
it
me,
is, but maybe
like,
that's
I get that, and it's probably a much more respectful thing to do to your fellow actors.
honestly.
but at
maybe
the same
he dialed it too far back. Maybe,
yeah, I think he went too far in the opposite direction. It's like, again, I don't think he's a bad actor. I think
Yeah.
he's an exceptional actor.
Yeah.
I'm just tired of him and being in so much. Like, let other actors shine.
Well, okay, when you say like being in so much, like
Like, he's in X-Men. He's in fucking Split. He's in Glass. He's in all of these movies that it just, like... And they all seem like they're all so close together in the last couple of years that it's just like, I'm seeing nothing else in these kind of eccentric roles except James McAvoy. And I feel like there are other actors who can do these roles just as well. And I would like to see them in something other than the roles that they have been in. Now, I'll grant you, okay, yeah, Luke Wilson's been in Conjuring. This is also a horror movie with it, so I'm kind of contradicting myself. But I feel like the character of Billy is drastically different enough from Ed Warren. Ed Warren is like a fucking Van Helsing, you know? Like, he
a
brings
very tame Van Helsing.
Yeah, a very tamed, very polite Van Helsing, but a Van Helsing nonetheless. And Billy is a very weak, frail... I don't want to say frail, and maybe weak is wrong too. He's a very vulnerable character, which is very different from Ed Warren in The Conjuring. And I feel like I would have loved to have seen what Luke Wilson could have done with that part. Whereas I've already seen James McAvoy play the vulnerable character with Xavier and in Split, where he plays, these more, frigid personalities. I don't know. I just would have liked somebody else.
Sorry, I was just trying to like check something here. Are you sure that it's Luke Wilson? Because it doesn't.
Maybe I'm getting the wrong name.
Hold on, because I looked up Luke Wilson.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
That's not Luke Wilson. No, that's not the guy.
No.
I know who you're talking about, but I don't think that's him.
No, it's not. It's not Luke Wilson.
It's funny that we said Luke Wilson a while ago, and everyone's like, "Who the fuck is Luke Wilson?" And then they look into it, and they're like,
oh shit!
Why this guy? What the fuck?
Yeah, no.
Patrick Wilson.
Patrick Wilson.
His
Patrick
oh,
Wilson.
it is. Yeah,
I'm
it's
so
Patrick
sorry.
Wilson.
Yeah, Patrick Wilson,
Okay.
not Luke Wilson.
Patrick Wilson. We're sorry.
Totally different. Sorry,
No,
Patrick Wilson.
and
I love you, man.
You know what's funny? I looked this whole thing up because you had said, oh, like he's in The Conjuring, he's in another horror movie. And I just saw this last night. Not only was he in The Conjuring, he was in Insidious as the dad. So he's been in other horror movies. I wouldn't have been like a jarring thing to see him in this. Like
Yeah.
No,
But the character is so different from anything he's played, even though he's been in the genre before.
I mean, like, that's the thing about, like, acting, though, is, like, you can play, like, multiple characters. It doesn't matter the genre. It's, like... And that's the thing is, like, I could see that working out for him. Yeah.
And I think he is a very close semblance to an older Billy.
Yeah. I think...
More so than McAvoy, in my opinion.
I think the thing with McAvoy, too, is that when I look at him, it's, like... The first thing I see is, like, McAvoy. I see McAvoy more than the resemblance to the kid in the first one. And I think with Patrick Wilson, it's like, I feel like the resemblance could have been a lot more noticeable, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Other than that, I think the cast was fine. I think they're...
Bill Hader was the one I was the most skeptical about, and I was the most...
surprised to see. Yeah.
Like, I haven't seen a lot of his work, and I know he is a funny guy.
Yeah.
But I was the most impressed by him. And whenever he came on screen, I'm like, all right, this is gonna be good.
Well, it's funny, Bill Hader. When I watched Saturday Night Live, Bill Hader was pretty big on there. It was before he really got into like the movies and whatnot. And I loved his stuff on SNL, and then he kind of left, and I was like, oh, I don't want to watch it without him now. But I hadn't really seen what he had been doing in movies and whatnot. So when he got announced for this, I was like, oh, this, hopefully, yeah. But I thought he was really strong, and I was really happy that he was
probably one of his biggest movies.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like, not to get into the movie or anyone else, but his role in that Amy Schumer movie, he was really...
Was he...
Him,
I haven't seen
him,
it.
And I think it was him and LeBron were playing like best friends.
Yeah.
And them individually and their friendship was like really, they were really fucking funny.
Yeah.
And they stole that movie. It was just unfortunate that it was an Amy Schumer movie.
Yeah.
But his character in it was his comedy came out very natural. Like it's the same as in this. It's like not monotone, but it's not like he's thinking of how he can be or deliver it funny. It's just kind of happening.
Has he done any stand-up? Because I feel like he would be a natural at stand-up.
I'm sure he has. The guy was pretty popular, especially like coming off of SNL. He was pretty popular.
His SNL bit of like the what was it? I think it was like the emo kid with the long sleeves.
No, he wasn't even the emo. He wasn't even the emo kid. He was like the... Oh my god, he was like the gay guy who would give you all the different recommendations in New York to go to. That was the funniest thing with him. I loved that shit.
I'm gonna have to take your guys' word for it because I haven't watched SNL since.
He was struggling to keep in character because it was cracking.
Well, because he would always like cover his mouth when he do this, and like half the time it was in character, and the other half was he was laughing at it. What I liked most was that he was able to pick, and he was able to keep traits from Richie in the first movie and whatnot when he was a kid, and he was able to, keep that personality and whatnot. Yeah. I was really happy to see that.
Yeah, especially for such a charismatic child actor like Finn Wolfhard.
Yeah. Who,
by the way, speaking of stand-up, I could see him dipping his toes in that. He's got the timing for it. For sure.
Yeah.
But Here's hoping he doesn't become another one of those messed up child stars.
Well, you know what's funny?
Looking at you, Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
You know what's funny is that, and this I hope not to spiral off too far. I was watching someone talk about like film festival movies that came out recently. He directed one just recently.
Finn Wolfhard?
Yeah, he directed a film recently.
What?
Like a short. Yeah, I was like, what the hell?
Wow, he's an opportunistic
I
little
guess.
fucker, isn't he?
I know. I mean, like, I don't know. I heard it was like decent, but I mean, as like a directorial debut thing. I was like,
I mean, he's a kid.
Exactly.
I wouldn't put the bar too high.
But
on
literally,
him.
I was like, "Are you fucking for real? This kid, like,
Good for him.
seriously, damn." Fucking, I feel like I just saw him in Stranger Things, and he's like this little guy.
It was the comedy short film Night Shifts.
Yeah, that was it. It was like a short film.
Yep.
I'll have to check it out.
Just out of sheer curiosity, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. No, I like him. Yeah.
Here's a fun quote. The only reason I started acting was because I wanted to become a filmmaker.
Oh shit! There we go.
There you go. All right.
What a way to get into it. I
The
mean,
prophecy.
oh man. All right. Dude.
Well, I feel like this has been as successful as I could have ever really envisioned it.
Well, Eric, did you have any final thoughts before we wrap
Nothing's
up?
on fire.
No,
Yeah.
not at all.
Yeah.
Nobody cried.
Yeah. I will say I have one final thought is that I appreciate having this discussion. I appreciate being this very nice, healthy, open back and forth because I honestly was like, oh boy, here we go.
I'm not that much of an asshole. Come
Well,
on.
neither am I.
Well, no, it's just
You- no.
Danny understands his opinions can be sharp sometimes.
And no, you literally, you challenged me, and I was like, yeah, I'm open to sharing, and you were like, I can't wait to show how wrong you are. Like, I was like, all right.
Well, maybe I've helped you see the movie in a different light, at least a little bit.
Well, no, to be fair, and I will say this, is that I don't hate this movie or anything. Having rewatched it and discussing it, it's like, it further clarifies, it's like, I don't hate this movie, or I don't heavily dislike. I just, it's like, it's whatever. But I do, it is nice to kind of like hear another person's perspective on it, just because I think that is the one thing, is like, when I did see it, I didn't really have, besides you guys, I talked to you guys about it, but you hadn't seen it. So it's like, okay, talking about it, it's like, yeah, there are definitely more things that I think that I liked than I realized. It doesn't drastically change my opinion or anything, but it's like, okay, like, it is nice to talk about it, and I'm glad that it's like, you know, you like it, and I'm glad that it's like, you know, there's a lot more to it than maybe I would have realized having just letting it sit on my own that one time I watched in the movie theater, never looking back. So,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it could have been better. Sure.
Yeah.
Would I have done different things differently? Sure. But there aren't a whole lot of movies I don't have that opinion on, and so it doesn't make them less of a film. It's just like, you know, there is no such thing as a perfect movie.
Oh, of course, absolutely.
There are movies that come close to my standards of a perfect movie, but you know, that's an entirely separate topic.
Well, no,
but,
I get that.
But yeah, no, I enjoy this movie a lot. In fact, I plan to add it to my collection, and you know, it'll probably be on regular rotation around this time of the year.
And I'm glad. I'm glad. Maybe it won't be regular for my rotation, but you know what? I'm glad that you enjoy it. I'm glad that we could talk about it, and maybe a long while from now, maybe I'll be like, you know what? Let's just watch it, because it's like, it's scary times, scary movies. Let's watch them both, because I think it's best to put the two together for sure.
You know, I'm of the mind that, you know, sometimes it's good to go back and revisit a movie you didn't like in a couple of years and see, like, hey, maybe I have a different perspective of it now. Like, I still go back and rewatch Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original one from the 70s.
Yeah.
I still hate it, but I still give it a chance to
Just in case.
to kind of invigorate my interest.
Yeah.
And there are times where, you know, I have changed my opinion on a film, and I'd be like, you know what? No, this is good. Like The Conjuring. I wrote that off as just yet another ghost movie.
Yeah.
And first of all, it's not Ghost, so I was wrong there. But it did a great job of being like a gothic horror in a more slightly relatively more modern setting.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to be proven wrong about a movie because that means there's one more movie I can enjoy.
Of course, yeah.
So
In 5 years, we'll come back and rewatch The Last Jedi and see how it is. If our
We're not gonna talk
that's not
about,
happening.
no,
that
no.
yeah, there
Don't
are
bring
some
that.
there are
Don't
some
bring that
that
in
just
here.
are beyond redemption.
Don't bring that in here. We're having this discussion was all nice and happy, and then you brought anything with Star Wars. It's like no,
Do not give
We're
me
not.
don't send me down that rabbit
Okay.
hole.
All right, I think this is a good note.
abort.
Abort. I think this is a good note to end it on. Then I think
Yeah,
I think we're all good here.
I think everybody at home's good. You guys
Yeah.
good?
Thank you all for watching.
And if you made it this far into the podcast, pat yourself on the back.
yeah.
That's right. Pat yourself on the back, and if you made it this far, go and write in the comment section, tortilla, out of context.
Out of context.
That way we know you did it.
But hey, while you're at it, why don't you go ahead and like the video, hit the subscribe, get more of this good content.
And you know how they can get alerted of when the content is available?
Is it when they hit the ding dang dinner bell? Hell yeah, hit the dinner bell and find out when we upload next. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. We will see you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.